Okay, class, welcome to the Introductory Nonfiction Notes for AP English Language. Normally, I do not share my PowerPoints, but because this is a 20-page slideshow, I've decided that I will go ahead and post this for you on Google Classroom. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't write the information down. What it means is that while you're actually listening and paying attention, that you can do that. You don't have to scribble down every single word or pause that often. You can go back to the PowerPoint itself, and you can finish filling in the rest of your notes. I am giving information other than what is listed on each note, so keeping that in mind is important. This introductory nonfiction notes will take 2 nights with 2 separate 15-minute videos. The first day I will cover the idea of the types of nonfiction literature, why we read nonfiction, as in the purposes, why it's written, and the different styles of organization for it. And then tomorrow or with the second video, I will get into the idea of journalism and the history of it and how it applies to what we're going to read and do this year. So the first thing we're going to look at is this idea of nonfiction. A nonfiction is a piece of literature that are represented as fact. Okay, so it's researched, it has background, it has evidence, it has a bibliography, a works cited page, it has first-hand evidence, it has second-hand evidence. All of these words and pieces of evidence you're going to learn more about in units 2 and 3 of this first quarter. Okay. In the recent century, though, the differences between fiction and nonfiction have become blurred. We've had fictional nonfiction definitely become a category, but we're looking at nonfiction. Okay, so the idea of the most popular categories that we're looking at is the list here. Okay, you are not going to see every single one of these this year. Okay, and some of these are more, like I said, blur on more of the fictional side, even though they're still in the nonfiction side. So looking at this allegory, and let me go back, allegory and fable are more ones that we will cover next year in AP Lit. But the rest of them we're going to see throughout this year. So autobiography, biography, obvious ones. Auto is they write it themselves. Bio is someone else writes it about them. Blogs and weblogs. Not only are you going to write one this year, but we're going to read a lot of them. Creative nonfiction is this idea of how we're fitting in aspects of the person's life, but also doing it creatively. And I will show you a couple this year. We're going to debate. We're going to write diaries and journals. We're going to definitely look at editorials. We're going to look at eyewitness accounts. We're going to talk about your own eyewitness accounts. We're going to look at history as well as historical commentary, and this is why I said that we pair well with the AP US history class. Some of the pieces of literature we're going to read are letters. I Am Malala is a memoir. A monologue we're going to look at more next year with the dramas and the speeches and the plays. A personal reminiscence fits into the idea of the memoir as well as the biography. Political cartoons are my favorite thing that we will do this year. We will do tons of them. Reviews, as in like, what did someone think about the movie, the song, the concert, the play, performances. Satire is one of my other favorites, this idea of that funny aspect of, if you're looking at SNL. Sermons, that idea of giving a speech from a pulpit, usually it's a religious aspect. Social criticism we will see tied into the satire. And then we have the one that we will actually cover probably the most, are speeches. Okay, so the purpose of writing. In your reading today, you're also looking at this idea of the occasion, the purpose, and aspects of that and why it all ties together. So when we're looking at this, the main thing you have to figure out right at the beginning is, why is the author writing this? Are they trying to inform you, persuade you, entertain you? Is it something that's supposed to be funny or satirical? Is it supposed to inspire you and lift you up? We're looking at that idea of a rhetorical purpose. So they write it with a purpose in mind. They want to influence you, they want to change you, they want you to try and achieve something. So in order to do that, they have to have that main purpose. Now, even though I've listed 7 here, and these are the main 7 that we will see this year, there's actually one that's not on here that we'll see a lot this year too, is to educate. But even though these 7 or 8 are the main ones, they're not the only ones. And a lot of times in class when we're going over this and talking about the purposes, I will not let you use these. I will want something more. I'll want something different because I want you to start thinking outside of the box and out of the normal aspects so that you have a better chance of getting those higher scores, but also of understanding a piece of literature deeper and more rhetorically. Okay, looking at the rhetorical modes. So in class, we covered this idea of rhetoric and the idea of why an author does this and what their purpose is. So this fits into how they're also organizing their piece of literature. There are on the right of the slide, you will see in all capitals the different types of modes. This again is not all of them, but these are the ones that we will cover this year and the 9 that'll show up the most on the AP test. So rhetorical mode is how they are presenting their subject. How are they writing it? What are they adding to it? And in what format are they doing it? So when they're rhetorically writing, they don't want to be all over the place. In fiction, they usually write in sequential order or in chronological order. But when you're looking at nonfiction, fitting with the purpose, the mode needs to match the purpose. And I'm going to talk about that when I introduce, because the next couple of slides actually introduce the different modes individually. So it helps the author to develop the ideas, it brings order and to the patterns and the way they're doing it, and it also achieves a particular effect within the reader itself. So going over these. The first one we have is narration. Narration is probably the one you're used to the most. It's used in present events, it's in the past, it's in the future, it's in the present, but it's this idea of that you're narrating something, you're telling a story. You're focusing on facts, you're giving examples, you're presenting historical background. We saw this a lot in I Am Malala and how she organizes the novel and goes in sequence of her life. So she's narrating her life story. You've written several pieces about this for various teachers in the past. Usually your first essay you write at the beginning of the year is a personal narrative. So you're picking an aspect of your life and you're narrating it and you're adding to it and you're analyzing it and you're enhancing it. Okay, so this helps with that. Like I said, narratives are the one you probably see the most within what you've seen already, but we're going to go further than a narrative. Okay, the next one, a description. A description is used to create images of a place or a subject, and it sketches the person's character. This is where imagery comes into play. This is where it evokes and shares feelings. I hope you know what your 5 senses are, because that's how an author uses imagery and how they use description. It's not just an apple. But why is that apple important? What does it look like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? I missed a sense in there on purpose. Pay attention to that. But that's part of the description aspect. Okay, we have 2 main aspects of description. We have subjective versus objective. Subjective is it emphasizes the emotional impact of a scene. How does it make you feel? Yes, you can picture it, and yes, there's that apple, but that apple evokes something. It evokes a memory. It evokes something that happened in your past, like your mom did this, or your dad did that, or the time you fell out of the apple tree. It's that emotional impact. The objective description is the physical details. It's the smell of that apple, the color of that apple. It's the direct technical scientific terms aspect of it. It's what I usually have the subjective is more the emotional, the objective sometimes to me is more of the dry and the boring if you get into the scientific and technical aspects of it. But if you get into the color and the you get into some good metaphors and similes in there, the objective could actually be very beautiful. Okay, classification and division. Classification and division is much more in the scientific realm. So if your brain thinks scientifically and you're taking an AP Bio or an AP Chem this year, this one will show up a lot in those classes with what you're reading in them. And I will also throw in some science articles this year so that you're seeing that within the class as well. So classification is a way of grouping individual entities into identifiable categories based on their similarities. So this idea that you're talking about everything, all of the mammals at one time, and then you're talking about all of the amphibians at another, instead of going mammal, amphibian, mammal, amphibian, mammal, amphibian, you're actually doing them separately so that you can explore the similarities within the group, but also at the same time you could explore the differences between groups. Okay, so we see this a lot in biology and we see this a lot in psychology. So if you took AP Psych last year, you probably will have noticed those classifications that took place in there. Now, division breaks up the whole entity, as in the biology systems or the psychology systems, and puts them into pieces. So if we took that idea of mammals, there are several different types of mammals. There are mammals that are on land, there are mammals that are on water, there's mammals that are in the air. So that's that division and taking it even deeper and further. Definition and illustration. Definition is this idea of defining it. You're defining it like a dictionary. You're making it clear, you're making it accurate. An extended definition is something that's more elaborate. It is more beyond what the dictionary would provide, and it goes into more detail. So instead of it just being a sentence or two, sometimes it's an entire paragraph or an entire essay. An illustration, on the other hand, is it refers to and gives you those extended details. So not only is it being defined, but it's much more abstract, and it's more it's more concepts that make it more concrete and specific, and something that you could actually draw and describe in detail. Okay, the next one is compare and contrast. This is seen with the idea of taking two objects or ideas or trends or works or items, anything, taking them and you're comparing and contrasting them. What do they have in common? What do they have that is different? Comparison is a similarity, contrast is the differences. A lot of times when you're writing a type of essay like this, people will write it in one of two ways. They'll look at the subject by subject organization, as in they will discuss each subject in its entirety, as in like they'll discuss World War II in one paragraph, and then Vietnam in another paragraph, and then they will have a conclusion. So they'd go intro, World War II, Vietnam, conclusion. But if you do a point-by-point organization, you're actually picking out the similarities in those, and maybe you have a paragraph on similarities and a paragraph on differences, then you come to a conclusion. Okay, process and analogy. Process is used in order to provide readers with directions, or it's explaining the mechanism behind it. So the process, this is your how-to manual, your recipes, your instructions, and this is usually done in chronological order. If you if you followed a recipe out of order, you're not going to get cookies, you're going to get mush instead. It's the same thing with building furniture. If you follow the instructions of the item that you bought, you're going to get a nice cabinet or a set of drawers or something like that. But if you don't follow the instructions, sometimes you have extra pieces that you don't know where they go. Analogy is you're comparing the topics at first glance and how they seem quite different. So you're taking those, so it kind of fits into this idea of that metaphor aspect, and metaphors fit a lot with the analogy, and it can be unfamiliar or technical information seem more commonplace and understandable, so it makes it work. So if you're looking at an instruction manual or a recipe and you're comparing it to something else, and you're talking about like how you whisk something or how you screw in something, if you're comparing it to something else, it makes it much more congruent for the author to see. Okay, cause and effect is the last one for today. So strategy, this is historical causation, so the idea of what happened to cause this outcome. And you will look at that a lot in APUSH this year, or AP US History. You've probably saw a lot of it last year in AP World, not AP World, AP Euro, if you took AP Euro. And this idea that what was the outcome of the war? What caused the war to happen? Now, logical fallacy. I list a logical fallacy here. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. You were not responsible for knowing this right now, but a logical fallacy we will go over in Unit 3 with this idea of knowing why something logically is incorrect. And we will do a lot of analysis on current rhetorical strategies with this idea of why the outcome doesn't match the causes. So looking at that idea, the causation and how it doesn't fit, that just because someone did it doesn't make it correct. Okay. making sure that you have these notes. Be ready for an activity in class tomorrow, and tomorrow you will have a different video. Thank you and good night.